Good day everyone. Welcome to the Purposive Communication. Our topic for today is all about the varieties and register of spoken and written language. So ngayon, malalaman natin what is the difference between a written and spoken language. So ngayon, malalaman natin kung ano ang pagkakaiba nila o how can we as a communicator be effective in communicating beyond spoken and written. So, before we start, the difference between the spoken and written language, alamin muna natin why is it important for us to be skilled. It's because we have to be engaged in this so-called international communication and transnational communication. Ano nga ba talaga ang kahalagahan ng prosesong ito? So let's discuss that. So international and transnational communication or communicating. So, according to Davis and Yagmore, communication has become so fluid and boundless. This is due to increasing effect and influence of globalization. So, alam naman natin ngayon na tayo ay napakamoderno and innovative in terms of technology. So, anong nangyari po sa ating communication is instead of being static or in a one-way or two-way dialogue, ang communication po ay naging fluid. When you say fluid, it is it is dynamic. It changes every day, every seconds. So, mahalaga po talaga sa atin dahil napakabilis magbago ng communication processes. It is vital for us, tayong mga speaker, na maging flexible and fluid. It becomes of communication or communicating. Hence, reintroduction and strengthening of multimodal and multicultural among learners is necessary. So, napakahalaga po talaga na maging isang multiculturalist ang isang or ang bawat isa sa atin. What do you mean by cultural competence? This is the use of an appropriate language, which is a way of performing to another culture. Alam naman natin yung katanggap-tanggap na salita in a particular language or in a particular culture, and that we have so-called cultural competence. Napakalaga po na ang pagkakaroon natin ng cultural competence. Lalong-lalo na tayo o we as a college student, in a real words, hindi lang po for mga Pilipino yung makaka-encounter natin. Mayroon po iba-iba, lalo na tayo, mayroon iba-ibang mga tao or mga language na makaka-encounter natin. We encountered people, different culture, even people in different gender, lalong-lalo na ngayon. We are encountering the members of LGBTQ or LGBTQRAY. Basta yun na yun. Yung mga kaibigan nating Biki or kasi yung language nila is katanggap-tanggap na. So, hindi mo naman talaga kailangan malalaman yung culture nila. Hindi mo naman talaga kailangan, halimbawa, malalaman mo yung language nila, hindi naman kailangan alamin pa yung kanilang culture. As we can see the slide, you may have assumed that when you learn the language of others, you also learn their culture. Take note, this is not always the case. You can learn a lot of culture features, but it's not necessarily teach you sensitivity and awareness or even how to behave a certain situation. You will learn a language, marunong kang mag-Chinese, kahit ano-ano pa dyan, but you can learn many languages like Bonjour or Chinese, but it is not necessary na makapag-communicate ka sa kanila. Dahil nga you are not aware the sensitivity and awareness. So this topic is learn you of how to communicate to others. So, kailangan natin magkaroon ng attitudinal change through the use of language. So, dyan po papasok na dapat alam na natin ang varieties and register of spoken and written language. Alam na natin ang characteristic of spoken versus the characteristic of written. Malalaman natin ngayon along with the discussion. So, alam na po natin ang ibig sabihin ng written and ng spoken. So, written, common sense is sinusulat. And spoken is through dialogue. But what is the differentiate between written and spoken? So, there are two functions that distinguish spoken from written language. The one is the actual situation of or context, and the second is the purpose of communication. Suppose is between context and purpose. So let us proceed the characteristic of spoken language. Spoken language is mostly maintained in the forms of dialogue. When we say dialogue, from the Greek word dia means two. So, hindi naman talaga sinasabi dito na ang spoken language is kailangan mo talaga na may kausap ka. Kasi, pwede mo namang kausapin yung sarili mo. But sinasabi dito na mostly maintained in the form of dialogue. Mostly talaga ginagamit is ang spoken language is ginagamit talaga pag meron kang kausap. So, I am talking to you. I am talking to my family, my father and mother. Mostly, ang ginagamit is spoken dialogue. Kasi, hindi ka naman makapag-communicate sa mama mo kung maliban lang kung sila ay deep. So, through gestures yun. So, if hindi sila deep, it is, ang magagamit mo talaga is, through spoken dialogue or spoken language. So the second characteristic is spoken language utilize human voices and all kinds of gesture. So yun na nga yung sabi ko. So, spoken language can also express or maaari mo siyang gamitin through gestures. Like gamitin mo siya yung mga deep person. And also, dito kasi sa spoken language or spoken dialogue is dito mo ma-express yung feelings mo. So, the other one is presuppose the presence of interlocutor. So, ano ba itong interlocutor? A person when who was engaged of communicating. So, ano ba ibig sabihin nito? So, ako is an example of interlocutor, which is I'm talking to you. There is a presence between you and us. So, spoken language is spontaneous but momentary. So, pag sinabi natin spontaneous, so, ikaw na yung bahala sa sarili mo or pwede kang magsalita hanggat gusto mo. But, it is a momentary. Pag nagkamali ka or nagkamali yung grammar mo, hindi mo siya pwedeng palitan. It's because physically present ka. Maliban na lang kung nire-record mo. So next is, it is widely used as intensifying words. So what is intensifying words? Ito yung mga palabok na salita like, oh my God, grabe. Sometimes, when we speak or in a spoken language, sometimes talaga is masasabi talaga natin yan. Lalo na yung iba yung iniisip mo. So next is characterized by the insertion of fill-ups. So sa spoken language is meron talaga mga fill-ups. Ano yun? Like, well, so, and sometimes when we communicate or when we talk or especially when reporting, sometimes magagamit tayo ng so, well, or and. It is because kinakabahan tayo. O it is because mayroon tayong iniisip. In spoken language is acceptable. But in a written, is not acceptable because may pinapalo tayong format o ang ating grammar is magiging incorrect na ito. So, let us proceed the varieties of spoken language. So, there is interactional, referential, expressive, transactional, and emphatic. When we say interactional, it is a social function. And when we say referential, the word of referential, referring the abstract or the concept. And then, the expressive or the judgment or feelings. In spoken language, we can express your feelings. Transactional. When you say transactional, is driven by the needs or you want. And then the emphatic. The emphatic is the small talk or small and plain talk. For example, nag-text ka sa friend mo, kumusta ka na, kumain ka na. It is, yan ang umpisa ng inyong communicating or yan yung umpisa ng pagkikipag-usap mo sa kanya. So, let's proceed the characteristic of written language. So, nandito na tayo sa written language. So, there are characteristics of written language. It is a presupposes the absence of interlocutor. Di ba kanina sinabi ko spoken is meron siyang feelings or meron siyang presence. And sa written language is meron siyang absence of interlocutor. Ibig sabihin, nakikipag-usap ka sa sinulat mo or kaya nga siya nasulat siya. So, kailangan mo talagang ayusin kasi para malaman ng nagbabasa or malaman na nakatanggap ng sulat. So, next is maintained in the form of monologue. So, pag sinabing monologue, it means ano siya, wala siyang voice or wala talaga siyang voice. It maintained in the form of monologue. Kaya nga written, di ba? Kaya nasa monologue siya. So, kailangan mo talaga i-explain dito sa sa 3 bullets, it is more carefully organized and more explanatory. So, kaya siya, kailangan mo i-organize and kailangan explanatory kasi wala nga presence doon. Doon sa written, walang presence. Kaya, the difference between the spoken and the written is, sa spoken is we can express or we can there are physically presence, but in written is there is even even ako is nagbabasa ako, kailangan maintindihan ko yon because doon sa binabasa ko, doon sa nakasulat is naka-organize siya. So, there is a lot of explanatory to para maintindihan ko lang. So, in a written, kailangan mo talagang i-organize yung sinulat mo kasi walang presence doon eh. So, kailangan yung nagbabasa, maintindihan nila yung kung ano yung isinulat mo doon. So, next characteristic of written language is able to live forever with an idea and expresses. So, sa written language is may forever, charot. So, dyan sa written language is it is able to live forever with the ideas to express. Kasi nga nakasulat siya. So, pwede mo siya i-preserve or pwede siya i-save mo or mayroon ka memory or whatever na pwede mo siyang i-save. So, forever mo talaga. And then, second is the writer has an opportunity to correct and improve it. So, the difference between the spoken and the written is, sa written is, pwede mo siyang makorek kasi nakikita mo. Pwede mo ma-correct yung grammar mo, yung pagkasunod-sunod. Unlike sa spoken na, wala na, nasabi mo na. Kasi narinig na or nasabi mo na, hindi mo siya pwede mo siyang i-correct, but yun na nga, nasabi mo na. And then, it bears a greater volume of responsibility than its counterpart. So, kailangan talaga, mayroon ka talagang volume and responsibility than its counterpart. Kailangan talaga is mayroon kang mabigat na responsibility than its counterpart. Kasi written siya, kasi nakasulat, kasi upang maintindihan ng mga nagbabasa. Kaya mas malaki yung counterpart mo or mas malaki yung effort mo sa written. So I hope you will learn this topic and thank you for watching.